Fabi, Lara. How are you?
Hello, Dale. It's nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's nice to see you too. And I get your emails.
Hmm.
I signed up, for the free letter, of course.
Yeah, the next big rush.
I'm just another, yeah, the next big rush. And there you always have something going on. And there are a lot of things that companies that you mentioned that people would need a pro like you to be able to find and do due diligence. So
Well,
uranium's been acting real well.
it
Um,
has, and if they need a pro like me, though, I think they're in trouble. So
okay,
let's start off with saying I'm just an investor. Yes, I do work in the industry. I currently help companies with marketing and the such, and I do have a free daily newsletter at thenextbigrush.com, which
nice.
means that I live in the underworld of the money investing industry and community, and I get exposed to a lot of the news because I have
Yeah,
to report it daily. So I
yeah.
get to see a lot of the movements. I get to see a lot of the sentiment. And I think I can sometimes gauge, where people are heading, where institutions are putting their money towards. And it helps a lot of the times. And a lot of the times it's almost too much, right? A lot of the time it's like, there so much is happening all at once. So
Yeah.
uranium is one of the things that I really like to talk about. And by the
And
way, thank you very much for having me on. I think it was in April or May.
yeah,
People started to follow me, and I could tell that these people who follow you and the show, they were of a very special intellectual class, which really helps the conversation. It really helps to, push the ideas around and have good conversations about our different theses and what's going on and what's not.
I've been very impressed, Bobby, with how well uranium shares have held up when we had that period of risk off a few weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Sometimes a stock is a stock and it doesn't matter what it is when you have general market sell-offs. And I like
Yeah.
to see how things act when they're tested.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and the uranium's acted pretty well, the shares have.
Yeah, so a couple of things have been happening with uranium right now that I'd like to bring to your attention. One is that we can't run away from risk when we're talking about mining, right? And so we're talking here political risk, we're talking
Yeah.
environmental risk, economic risk of all sorts. And I think it was about 10 days ago, there was a coup in Niger. Now, Niger
Okay.
it's between the sixth and fifth largest producer of uranium in the world. So you have, the French giant Orano there. You have a couple of other, medium-sized projects there. And, I think only two very small companies, very early stage companies in Niger. But the French do produce a lot from it. The resource is there, right? And it is a really important part of their economy. Now, when the
So the
coup
fear is
happened,
that they might nationalize the mines?
there are obviously fears that that might happen, and the effect has been twofold. One is that the companies involved in Niger had a massive drop. You can, take a look at them. I'll give you a couple of names. So, if you actually, I'll give you the main one, which was previously beloved by the uranium community because they do have the goods. It's a high grade deposit, and it was very, very close to coming into production. According to them, things are still moving forward, but obviously the timelines have completely shifted. It's called Global Atomic. Okay, so Global Atomic was the company that everybody was making bets regarding coming into production very quickly. And the government was very pro uranium. They had all the deals signed, everything where it was going
Is it
100%.
O? Is it atomic with
GLO,
an O? GLO is a
yeah,
symbol.
GLO is a symbol. Yeah, Global
Okay,
Atomic,
got it.
GLO is a symbol.
Okay.
And then this happens. The company itself completely crashed price wise, but that kind of gave the rest of the market a feeling of there's trouble in Niger, therefore the
Could be
rest of the
Mali.
world, yeah, the rest of the world could do well uranium
Oh,
wise
okay.
because Niger might be out of commission for a while, right?
Okay.
And
I
so that
see.
actually helped the other equities to maintain a decent level while the one company was, taking it all. And there are a couple of other companies as well, but this was the one that suffered the most, Global Atomic.
What was the hit? 50% or so?
I think about that top to bottom.
Okay.
I think it's trading sideways now, but it was
Sure, it's
close
been
to
in a
that.
car crash, and when after you have those kind of
Yeah.
moves, it
And
breaks the stock,
they
and
were
it's in
just about to
shock.
get financing as well for the
Yeah,
last portion of the mine. And so that was, a
I feel
great
bad for the
punch.
shareholders.
Yeah, a great punch to the stomach. And I had the privilege of meeting the CEO personally. Really straight shooter, really nice gentleman, trying to do the right thing, but there's things that you can't control. So that has
Yeah.
been really negative for some shareholders, generally positive for the other, for the
Well,
general market for
okay. Well,
the
I
other
can
equities.
imagine with what President Biden did at the Grand Canyon a week or so ago uh, was positive for the sector, meaning he's not going to allow any mining in the Grand
Yeah,
Canyon.
yeah.
There already are uranium mines there, aren't there?
So there are uranium resources and projects that are close enough for the local communities to be
Safe.
weary, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I think with that in particular, they weren't gonna go ahead anyway because of the locos. And so I don't think that it makes a massive difference right now, because I don't
Okay.
think those mines were going to come into production anytime soon anyway. And when we
Okay.
talk about anytime soon in mining, we're talking
So it
10.
just made them look good to the
Yeah, yeah.
Greens.
I think it was
It
more of
was
a
good
political
PR.
move. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. All
exactly,
right.
exactly.
You're
Uh,
not going to be able to do what we're not letting you do anyway.
Politics
For
is
sure.
politics. That never
Yeah.
changes, Dale. You know that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
another thing that is happening to the uranium market is that you're seeing more and more restarts and extensions. Now, why is this important? When I run a nuclear power plant, I am planning things out 5 to 10 years in advance. And so I have fuel today and I have purchases today because I'm looking well into the future. It's not a matter of, how much uranium we need. It's just, we always need uranium, right?
It's
And
not
it's how
just
much.
in time delivery. You
Absolutely
couldn't
not.
run it. Yeah,
It
you
cannot
can't
be.
run a power plant that
It
way.
cannot be. And you also don't have the fragility that, for example, copper has as a commodity, that you might be able to use aluminum for certain types of uses. It's like there's only uranium and that's it. You can't use anything else for your fuel. And so there's always this need. But if you look at any sort of uranium analysts and projections, demand and supply curves, people always had this notion that a few dozen plants were going to be decommissioned. I want to say from 2 years ago to the next 15 years. And so there was this big cliff of, power plants that weren't going to be producing any longer because they were quite old. Some of these have been built in the 50s and 60s up to the 80s. And so maybe if they're not maintained and they're not modernized, they become very, very expensive. And so therefore, governments start using a different energy mix and they try to implement wind and solar to close that gap.
Do
We've
you
been
think
finding.
do you think it was a good idea, Fabi, for them to close San Onofre in California since it's right on a major fault line?
You will never know,
Or
because
was it
we'll,
just too
we'll we'll never
old?
know. We'll never know the real risk of what could have happened.
Yeah.
But when it comes to energy security, my thinking is always it's better to have plenty than try to do the political thing and try to go for the so-called green alternative and then realize you can't really make ends meet energy wise. Energy is a very, very serious topic. There is basically no wealth in any country without massive energy generation, and that energy needs to be cheap enough in order for the population to be able to produce. And so it's a case by case basis.
Do you
But
worry about our grid, Fabi?
I worry about most countries' grid, to be completely
Okay.
honest,
All right.
because there is this notion that green energy is going to replace
fossil
what we
fuels.
used to do in the old
Yeah.
days, call it nuclear and fossil fuels. And the reality is, I don't think that people understand the difference between energy capacity and actual energy generation, right? So when you have a solar panel, there is a certain capacity that that solar panel can produce, but sometimes it's not sunny. And a lot of the times it can't capture all of the sun that it's being directed at it, and it can't store it in a great way in order to make it work. Most so with wind, right? The big problem with wind, one of the big problems with wind, is the inability that we have to store that energy when it's really windy. And when it's not windy, we don't have enough energy generation. And so having nuclear as base load power for me is essential in any energy mix whatsoever. Like, you cannot afford to maybe have enough energy for your community, because
Are
we
the
live.
Republicans more nuclear power plant friendly than the Democrats?
I would have said 3 years ago, even, yes. Today, I would say yes, but with a slight advantage. I think that the Democrats are coming around to the new technologies and to the actual numbers,
Yeah.
that we need more electricity than what we previously thought. Therefore, we must, go back to what already works. We need to go back to nuclear and other things. And so one surprising thing about the Biden administration is that everybody in the nuclear camp expected Trump to be super pro-nuclear. And we were thinking, hey, all the mines are going to come back up. This is going to be like, a massive 4th of July party. And it was actually quite timid, the way that the Department of Energy moved towards nuclear. Now, with the Biden administration, they have actually been a lot more vocal, and it's become a bipartisan issue where both sides of the aisle are saying, look, we're all for more energy in general, and we're all for more nuclear, which is actually really, really positive. I think it's a move towards, the right direction. But going back to the point of, okay, so we have now a restart, or, a cancellation of a nuclear phase out. It means that if I run a nuclear power plant, I need to get material in now, because somebody has just signed a document that has approved an extension to my power plant that was previously unplanned. So I've been, working off stockpiles and, nuclear fuel that was due to end. And you don't want to sit on, you want to sit on a couple of years of nuclear fuel just in case, but you're not going to sit on 8 years worth of nuclear fuel. That's not normal. Only the Japanese think that far ahead. But what that means is that I must go back to the market now because of this
Yeah.
unplanned extension, and I must buy material now. And so the actual price has held very steadily, and it's actually climbing up a little bit, this week with just not a quiet summer. Utilities are coming to the table and they are procuring new material. And so things are going quite well when it comes to uranium.
Yeah, I'll
And
just pull up a chart so that people could see how well it's been acting. These are uranium prices right here. Sprott.
yeah, yeah.
Is that the one you look at? You look at the
Sprott
Sprott.
is one that I look at, but
And here's
Sprott
another
can
one.
act independently of the actual spot price. It is actually
Okay.
notoriously difficult to find good spot indicators. Most of them are 1 to 2 weeks old. I usually go to Numerco. Numerco is, a private company that provides some of that information. But
Okay.
there's not even charts, right? It's just a daily. Here are the prices. Here's the curve to December,
Like gold
etc.
used to be a spot price.
That's
And
exactly what it is. Yeah. If you go back
okay.
20 years to any commodity, this is what uranium is like right now.
Yeah. So it's been grinding higher in
Yeah.
the fate. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
has been. And
All right.
I don't think that this is going to end so soon, because nobody that I talked to in the market even expected all of these extensions, which weren't included in any of our demand projections.
There's
We were
best of
thinking of
breed,
just the demand.
Cameco, right?
Yeah,
Cameco making.
Chemical is doing really, really well. And this is a problem that we have with the uranium sector when it comes to the equities. You have Cameco, which is a producer, and you have Kazatomprom, which is the world's largest and lowest price producer. However, they are partly owned by the government of Kazakhstan. And so you have political risk there that you don't have with Cameco. And now with Cameco, you might have contractual risk that you don't have so much with Kazatomprom, because the way that Cameco prices their material doesn't always grab the whole of the move. They put limits to their pricing in the way that they sign their contracts. But it's what people know. It's what institutions know Cameco, and they love Cameco because it's in Canada. It's safe. They produce enough, and they actually now, they've merged with a big chunk of Westinghouse. So now they are getting more into the other steps in the nuclear fuel cycle. They're not just a miner with all the risks that miner have, but they also have a part of the downstream uranium production and nuclear fuel production, which is very important as well.
So they're like the Apple of
They are
the uranium.
I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but truth is, yes, they are, and there's a reason why they're moving before the others are moving.
So besides uranium, I've seen in your letter, you cover other metals. I think I saw something about nickel.
Yeah.
What else are you focused on besides uranium, and what's the story behind them? Are you a believer in a grand super cycle in commodities? And we haven't brought any mines. It's so difficult to get permitting to get to mine for anything.
Absolutely. So what's happening now is we see that countries that we call, the developing countries, India, China, most of Asia and Africa, people, when they go from a very basic economic status of poverty to having enough, the first thing they do is they buy more stuff, right? They don't buy more software. They go from riding a bicycle to riding a motorbike to driving a car to getting a bigger house, etc. So that shift, as long as it continues, then it's going to demand a lot more commodities of all types. Now, investing in mining has not been sexy whatsoever, so much so people who invest in commodities are known to be contrarians, and that's for a reason. We're up against everybody, right? We're not invested in, the fancy AI tech stuff. Well, I am personally, but it's not where my focus is.
Can they use AI in mining?
They can use AI in mining, but
or maybe making it more say to AI, where's the best place for me to drill?
It has been helpful. I don't think it has been a massive game changer. So you have, as a comparison, the oil industry, right? There's so much money in the oil industry, and it's so much bigger that technology resources went into that market, that industry. And then, people invented fracking and different levels of fracking, different technologies, so that, the US quickly became a leader in oil production, where it was completely dependent on the Middle East in the past. That hasn't happened in mining. And so the finding of the mineral resources can be aided through AI, but it's still very, very slow, and it's very costly. I mean, we actually have to make the holes, drill the holes in the ground, and try to ascertain, depending on the type and grade of the deposit, how much we have there and if it's economic or not. And because you're doing that as time goes by, that all your numbers are off, because you're basing yourself of today's economics, but you're only going to produce in, 5 to 3 years when you come, to that stage.
And you don't know what the price of energy is going to be, and it's very energy intensive, right? So
very much so.
The price of oil has a dramatic effect on the bottom line.
Yeah, very much so. Now, here's something interesting that I have been looking at, and I'm probably going to, start shuffling the decks a little bit more to go towards this topic, which is nobody is excited about gold. I just ran, a a poll on my Twitter, and it seems like people don't care about gold. They don't believe that gold is going to go much higher. They're excited about silver, copper, nickel, lithium, et cetera, even uranium.
Everything but gold.
Nobody cares about gold. And these are gold people, right? These are the gold bugs answering these questions. And everybody has
They're just so burned out because
thrown in
they've
the
been in the
towel.
shares.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
underperformance of the shares, well, they have to be a big screaming buy then.
Now, here's the thing. You look at gold, and there are two things that are very interesting happening with gold. One is that there's M&A happening at the top, and there's M&A happening at the bottom. So financing right now is dire. I don't remember seeing companies so needy of cash and having such a hard time raising money in Vancouver, in Toronto, or wherever else. Australia is doing a little bit better. But if you look at the mining companies in general, especially the gold companies, very difficult for the tiny, tiny little companies. And some of them are just merging because they cannot keep the lights on. And you see a lot of mergers happening right at the top. So you have, Newmont and Newcrest merging to form the largest gold company in the world. You have Pan American, coming together and buying a bunch of different assets in different companies. And you have, this wave of M&A that you only see either at the bottom or at the top. But you look at any chart, right? You look at the GDX and the GDXJ, and you can tell this doesn't look bubbly. This doesn't look like a top. And what you see is that in the middle, you have companies that are either small producers or that have proven resources in the ground, but are still, doing the studies or drilling more, making new discoveries. They're in that no man's land. And so I'm seeing a ton of opportunities now in companies that have gold resources that they're quite late stage. Exactly. Yeah. And so, from, I believe, and I don't want to misquote, but I believe that Orla Mining has proven up more ounces in the ground from, the time that we looked there at the peak. I think it was in October 2020 to now. So the story has gotten better and stronger, and the price has moved accordingly. So I see a lot of that happening in that space.
Do you know this one, Fabi?
That's the opportunity. B2 Gold. Yeah, B2 Gold is
been under a lot of pressure. Do you know why? I mean, it's acting worse than a majority of them.
I don't know why. I think they had a project in a funky jurisdiction that they wanted to get out of. Yeah.
Because that's Mali, I think.
And that can be a problem. Yes, absolutely can be a problem. I don't know if they've sold off or if they're still holding that, but that will definitely put a dent into your valuation. Okay. Now, it comes with risk, but everything in mining comes with a massive risk, and it's all cyclical. And yeah, that's where I see the opportunity, because when I see that people that are usually invested in gold not caring at all about gold, it kind of gets me more interested in, in their old love and their old passion. So I'm looking at some gold opportunities.
Yeah, I'm looking at just, one man's opinion, a little bounce in the gold, but I'm looking for about 1,800 gold in the next month or two. And I think you'll be GDX will take out the 27 level and maybe be able to buy it around 25. So I'm getting ready to back up the truck. So from what you're saying, people feel there's a lot more potential in silver, but you think there's more because it's so underowned and unloved in the golds.
Yeah, and there are a lot of companies in the gold space with a proven resource. There is, for example, this company called Montage Gold, and I'm not associated with them in any way, shape, or form, but I know that it has all the ingredients. Okay, they're in West Africa, but in a jurisdiction that's much safer than any of the countries we've previously mentioned. And Montage Gold has proven...
Symbol?
Good question. Let me check here. Montage. So Montage Gold is a company that has MAU. So they have a proven resource of over $1 billion in feasibility study. So feasibility study is the very last stage that you do, your economic study in order to be able to make a decision towards producing or not producing. Now, Montage Gold, if you can take a look at the market cap there, to me, it shows up as 103 million Canadian, right? Okay. These guys have a massive track record of success with this type of company.
They're fairly new too, aren't they?
Yes. And here's the crazy thing. So they launched during the pandemic, and they've been able to actually push the project forward from, resource to feasibility study, which is the latest, like the very last step before producing or before a production decision. They've done that through the pandemic, which to me is mind-boggling because these guys have done it before. So we're not talking about amateurs here. And their resource is today worth considerably more than $1 billion, and they're trading for 100 million. Now, that's the type of thing that you see in the gold market when people just don't care about it. Yeah. The other thing is that you have to take a look at what were the assumptions when the economic study was built, because I can put any sort of numbers there and make it seem like, my resource is worth more than $1 billion. But you have to look at, okay, what is the assumption they're making on what the price of gold is going to be by the time they extract and sell it? What's the price of oil going to be? Because that's a massive input. What are the current taxes in the country, and are they in a good enough position that you believe things are going to remain quite stable? So with all of that in mind, you look at people that have done it before in the mining industry. You see a company that is doing so poorly price wise, and the resources so rich. I mean, that's the gold market, right? That's the gold investing market.
Yeah, so that I think that's a very interesting thing that you brought up, gold being unloved, and how a lot of these issues are trading well underneath what you would call book value, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely,
way under book. So here's Fabi's site, and where you could sign up for the letter, and she has a lot of great. Look, she even checks
publishes
Fiji out,
every
so
day.
she could take a trip there. She
I've
covers something.
I've been telling this company, look, I'm available for a site visit. Book me up. I might take my husband with me, but I'm available.
All right. So anyway, Fabi, I think that people need to follow you, and at the minimum, get your letter to alert them to. I think you have a great eye and a great depth of knowledge in the industry, and you're right, it is difficult to do all the due diligence yourself, and to have experts and watchmen, people looking out for laying out the risk so people know what the risk is, geographical and everything you said. Fabi's your gal for the next big rush.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Means a completely different thing to me than it did 30 years ago, the next big rush. So
I'm sure.
Anyway, Fabi, so great to have you back, and appreciate you letting us know about the gold, and that may even changes my narrative a little bit about leaning heavier into the silver miners, but giving gold miners maybe a heavier dose of my capital.
Why not?
So all right. So Fabi, Lara, everyone, at the next big rush. Maybe you could strike a nice trade with what she's watching out there in the mineral section. Thank you so much, Fabi, for being back with us again and edifying our community.
No problem, Dale. Thank you so much for having me, and see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you in the fall, Fabi. Fabi Lara, everyone, at the next big rush. That's a wrap for Turnaround Tuesday. Good luck to everyone the rest of the day. You could join the team in 13 minutes on the Morning Edge, and we'll see you tomorrow. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.